Hello, networkers, and welcome back to another episode of Ask the Network Engineer. And in this episode, we are continuing our conversation of talking about applying for jobs. So now at this point, we are at the phase where you have succeeded the interview process. The management team, the engineers, or the staff, they like what they saw in the interview, and you're given an offer. You're hired. So really, we're done here. But I want to continue this conversation for 2 more episodes. This one, which is focused on when you're hired, things to keep in mind. Because when you're hired for a company, it may be on a probation period, which means 3-6 months for them to make a total determination if they want to give you a full-time offer. A lot of companies do that just to be sure. And many people sometimes do not get through that particular process because there are things that they do, their work ethics, how they view things, and being justified. And these are things that other people have seen and have problems with. So that's what I want to talk about in this particular episode. It's a short one little page of a presentation that I want to provide. But this will help you for considerations that when you're hired on the job, what needs to be kept in mind. So let's get to it. Okay, so once again, when you're hired on the job, there are 4 main considerations to keep in mind. So here they are. The first one is being humble. This is what we talked a lot about in the last episode about being humble, admitting what you know and what you do not know, being helpful, and not being overconfident, being arrogant, being annoyed. Because one of the things that's going to happen a lot when you're on the job is that when you're resolving issues or working with users or customers or other people in other IT departments, you may repeat something multiple times to the same person. So, for example, a lot of things that I do for my company is consulting services. So I do a lot of consulting for other companies that specialize with Microsoft, Active Directory, Linux, basically the whole LAMP infrastructure, if you're aware of that in the Linux world, and of course, Macs. So they're not networking people. So they usually contract out for networking assistance for projects with their clients or even within their own environment. So I do a lot of that. And the overlap that usually happens between server people and networking people is VLAN assignments. So depending on the environment and depending on the individuals, I sometimes allow the server administrators to log on to these switches and to put ports to a particular VLAN that they need, a user network, a guest network, a DMZ. And it's a very easy task for anybody to do. So I have always communicated this multiple times to the same individuals for how to configure a VLAN, whether it's by email, by phone, even a instruction document that I have provided. But sometimes I still get contacted for how do I add a port to a VLAN. Now remember, server people are not networking people, so we're not talking about anything sophisticated like MPLS. That is a hardcore network engineering type of task. VLANs is something that is very general and what server people can do, even some desktop people. I've done that before in the past. Again, it all depends. But being humble also basically means being helpful. That when you're asked the same question over and over and over again, some people do this and that gets them into trouble. That labels them as being arrogant and not helpful. That people tell the user or the server administrator, you should probably write this down. I've been telling you this multiple times and you're not understanding this. Don't say things like that. That comes off that you're not helpful and that they're wasting your time. The company has hired you to do a job, and that is to support the environment, take care of the customer, keep the customer in mind. That will be the running theme for this particular section. So when you come off unhumble, not helpful, that comes off that you're not a team player. And that could also lead you being very combative. combative that if there's an issue, you're like, well, it's not my problem, it's their problem though. So, they should do it. You do a lot of finger pointing. That's not what a team player does. A team player is a person that when there's an issue, they get it done. They work together. They're like, okay, well, let me check out the router. Let me check out the switches. Let me just check things out to make sure that everything is working correctly though. Because you're right, there could be something that is networking related. You don't know until you work together as a team. Being humble, being helpful, that's really important. Another component is being flexible. Now, what does this mean exactly? Well, I'll give you an example of something that this happens a lot with one company that I know about, and it gets them into trouble. Now, I don't know where this comes from, why people usually do this, but it comes from the conversation that we had before about job versus career. That is it a job? Like, it pays the bills. I just want to go in, do my job, and then go. Or a career that you want to, this is your professional career. So you want to take the most of that experience. You want to be better at it. You want to advance in that particular job. That is the difference with a job and a career. So this scenario happens a lot. And let's say that there's a technical support team, a group of people, and they have their lunch break and they have 2 breaks in between. So let's say that you're on a lunch break. Okay, so you're at your cubicle, you're eating your lunch, looking at something on the internet. This is your free time. Then suddenly a server goes down. Okay, it's affecting hundreds of users. They're calling in. So it is overwhelming the help desk. So what do? Well, more people, like the management staff, they may go around saying, help, we need more people on the phones because we're getting a lot of people calling in because there's a server problem. We just need to let them know that we are working on the issue. We want to be helpful. We want to be a team player. We want to take care of the customer. We want to keep the customer or the user in mind. So a manager could go to a person and say, hey, can you quickly get on the phones for me? Well, that person's response would be, well, I'm on my lunch break. This is my free time. So, and they kind of go back to their lunch. That will cripple your career because that is one, you're not being humble. You're not being helpful. Okay. You're not being a team player. You're only looking out for yourself. You're not being flexible in terms of, okay, there's a problem going on here that's affecting the users or affecting the customers. And it's the customers that's keeping that company in business. It is those aspects, these 4 things that I'm listing here, that really determines your character. So if you do not want to help out with that, that's going to definitely affect you. Whether it is this job or definitely the next job, is going to affect you. Because these are the main attributes of what companies look for specifically. But number 4 is the smoking gun. Is you got to keep the customer or the user in mind. That if there is an outage where a server is down and your team needs you to jump on the phones and to help out with taking phone calls and to take care of the customer, you should say, absolutely, I'm going to take care of the customer. I'm going to do the right thing. So that's what you do. Or let's say that you're on the phone. This happens a lot with some people as well. They're working with a user. And let's say that the user is doing something wrong. And you tell them, well, you're doing it wrong. You should do it this way. Don't do that. You're insulting the user, though. They're calling you because they need help. They're not technical people. This is not their job. So, and that's like, once again, of being humble. Like, yes, I may have told many network or many server administrators how to add VLANs, or to assign VLANs to a port. But I'm not going to be annoyed by that because that's not what their job is. I've been doing networking for more than almost 20 years. Oh my goodness. For almost 20 years. I have done this day in and day out, nonstop. I have done networking for a long time. You got it. But for other people, that's not what they do. So how are they supposed to know about doing a particular task? And I have to understand that. And I do understand that. So I don't be critical of people. Hey, I help them out. No problem. I said, oh, don't worry about it. Yeah, here's how you add a VLAN. And it may involve me resending the same document. But I'm helping out. I'm keeping them in mind. And I don't want to be mean about it. So this really determines if you stay on with the job or if you get fired. Because every time I've seen somebody get fired in a company, it is because of one of these aspects. Basically, there are the same thing, which is not being a team player and not being flexible and not keeping the customer in mind. Those aspects has gotten people fired every single time. So that's why I wanted to do this particular episode to explain that in more details. So look at this, review that, and if you're currently working at a company, which probably you are, look at these aspects now in your workplace and how you are doing those things. Are you looking at yourself and saying, okay, so I'm working in some department, and I don't care if you are a senior network designer, engineer. Look at yourself. Am I being helpful when there's a problem? Am I part of a team and working together to solve a problem? Am I flexible when management needs me, to be on call, or if I need to skip my lunch break to work on something or work on the weekends? Am I flexible for that? And also, am I taking care of the customer? Is that happening? And of course, being nice about it. You should definitely assess that, because if you see yourself not being flexible or not really being a team player, then I think that is definitely room to grow and what to improve on. You can go, you know what? I'm actually not very flexible, so I need to work on that. So if there are people in the IT field that don't like that, like, I don't want to, really be flexible. I have my lunch break. This is my personal time. I think that's a great idea, but you are in the wrong profession, because in IT, networking, desktop, servers, storage, things are unpredictable. You can't control it. Support, fixing issues is part of the requirements for being a network engineer. You will never get away from that. So, and being a supporting aspect of it, of being flexible, being part of a team, keeping the customer in mind, those are support related. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. I apologize, but it's really important because I've seen people lose their jobs. And that affects you for moving ahead to something better, right? To be a network engineer. It all starts, right from the bottom and working your way up. And you don't want to get into a position where it compromises you from moving ahead because you lack these particular attributes. So please keep those considerations in mind. And we are finished with this episode of Ask the Network Engineer. So once more, you want to consider those aspects when you're on the job, or if you're working for a project or for a client, anything. Is being humble, being a team player, being flexible, okay? Not being fixed to a particular schedule and you have to do that schedule. And of course, always keep the customer in mind. Very important. You will thank me one day. So thank you for watching this video. I do appreciate it. And we have one more video to go in this series. And that will be focused on moving ahead and those considerations, among other stuff that we'll be talking about. So once again, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel. That means a lot. It will support us. Check out our website, our training website at rodhub.net to support the training that we do for many engineers for practical training. And I'll see you guys next time in the next video.